Alrighty, everybody, welcome back to Crafts and Crimes, part 2 of the Texarkana Moonlight Murders and the Town That Dreaded Sundown. If you're watching this, I hope you already watched part 1, otherwise it's not going to make any sense to you, but hey, it's you do you. But like I said before, as I was editing, it was just too much information for one video, so we split it up into 2 parts. So this is the little intro to get you started. And again, if you've already watched part 1, you know that this is Crafts and Crimes, where we talk about true crime, films that were inspired by the true crime, while we make stuff. So here's the conclusion of the Texarkana Moonlight Murders, the Town That Dreaded Sundown, and the Practical Magic Sign. Alrighty, enjoy. Aha, I did it. I knew I should have plugged it in beforehand. I figured, oh no, I can talk about this quickly. There's not that much information here. There's not like that much information in this case. No, not at all. Immediately after these reports, they did try, after this attack, they did try to put blockades up. They did try to, there was FBI, the FBI and the Rangers were there. They did really try to solve it. I'm not saying they didn't try to solve it. I just don't think that this time period had the ability to solve these crimes. There wasn't, if there were any fingerprints left, or the fact that maybe they really didn't solve it. As far as like because there is some good police work. Max Tackett does just do some really good police work, and that his police work is why we have Yule. So it's not like they didn't have the ability to do good police work, but if there's no evidence left and there's nothing to compare it to, then how are you supposed to find or connect anybody to the crimes? That's just duh. They're not, it's not a miracle work. They're not miracle workers. They can't pull evidence out of their ass, like real evidence out of their ass. I know they can pull evidence out of their ass and make it fit however they wanted. Not that they should. I'm not advocating for that, but I know that they could do that. But to find it correctly, they can't just do that. Oh, and there is a quote from them as they say, I don't know, while they were following the blood, at this dark case, while they were following her trail of blood, she's like, it's beyond me why she did not bleed to death. And I guess there's a reason, she's a badass woman. She didn't bleed out. Goodness. Or at least go into shock. That makes me, that blows me away that she didn't go into shock. Considering, her adrenaline must have been whew, through the roof. So this one did have some clues. The first was the caliber of bullets that they had changed, and they found those. The second was a flashlight found on the hedge underneath the window of this where the Starks had been shot. And then the last were some bloody prints around the house of shoe prints. Too bad they weren't those Aria shoes. Were only one person, 2 people had bought them in that certain size. But again, they have these bloody prints, but the crime scene was a mess since she had been running all around the house bleeding. And so there were, I guess he left some smudge fingerprints and other places and shoe prints, but I'm sure they tried to, but if they didn't break, close off the crime scene. It could have been somebody who worked there's fingerprints on accident. So like, things could have been, definitely could have been compromised in that investigation. But the flashlight was an interesting piece of evidence. They did send that away for fingerprint testing, but they didn't get anything from it. But it's like an industrial, like metal. I mean, most things, it's not like things were really plastic back then anyway, but it was almost like a tactical flashlight. No, I want to get to the flashlight. Okay, yeah. They brought the bloodhounds in. Well, they sent the flashlight out, but again, like I said, they didn't find anything on it. They tried to get the scent. They found 2 trails, but the scent got lost. They got 12 suspects from it. 47 officers were looking to solve the murders. The flashlight was sent. The unofficial theory or motive from the officers was sex mania, as large amounts of money in the house were not taken. Although, sex maniac hunted in murders. It could have just been the murder and the mania. The maniac is the hysteria afterward. Could be what was really drawing him in, considering he is getting off on the power from it. Could be what apologies. I wanted to make sure I was still recording. I don't want to get all the way done with this and realize it stopped recording. So that would really, really suck. So I was just checking on that. I can only record I have a new phone and I really love it, but I can only have so much on my phone without running out of space too. I'm a one-woman show. I can only do so much, guys, without any sponsors. I'm trying. I really enjoy this. It's very fun for me, even though I don't have any sponsors or anything. I enjoy doing this, sharing this information. Feel like we're in our own little book club, crime club, film club. I want to hear your thoughts about it. Talk about these cases together. On the Facebook page, the Instagram. I want to hear your theories too. Be really interesting. But yeah. So they, nothing was really stolen, so they figured that it was, the crime was going to be more sexual in nature. Even though he didn't get to attack her that way. Although why would he shoot her first if he wanted to attack her like that? Sexually assault her. Although maybe that's part of his thing. He wanted to do it afterward. I don't know. But after the death, the reward went up to $7,000 and $7,025. Like, that's a lot of money now. Could you imagine that much money in 1946? Sheesh. And then are we getting the following? Sorry. Toasty. Oh, they also set up a mobile radio station where they could, with the like walkies and stuff, so they could communicate between each other. I like how, not I like, but it's just interesting how all this happens after the last attack and then there's no more attacks. It's very strange. There's probably some kind of conspiracy behind that. Not that I found any. I listened to a lot of podcasts and tried to think of, like, listen, but nobody got into, like, weird conspiracies about it. But I'm sure there's something about that. How after all of these, like, protection orders and all these things came into effect, there weren't any more attacks afterwards, which could be related to the fact that they did catch somebody. So maybe that it goes into it as well. But if he is not, if Lowell Sweeney is not, if he is not the actual Phantom, then why did it stop? Or maybe if he wasn't it, he did the car theft, he goes away, but there really wasn't another Phantom, then, like, what drove him away? Why did he stop attacking there? So I don't know. Throwing that out into the abyss. I want to get back to the flashlight because I thought that was interesting. I think I must have ran right through it. But it was a metal one. It was found. It was very like, there wasn't that many of this kind of flashlight. It was metal, had red on it. It was a 2-cell battery flashlight, and it had only been sold in certain areas. They did go to see who had bought it, but they didn't, the person who had sold it couldn't remember who had bought it. But it was posted in the Texarkana Gazette, and they there was a big color picture printed on the front page, and it was the first color picture that was printed on the Gazette. And I thought that was an interesting tidbit about the about this case, was that it also was the first color picture posted in the Gazette, as they were trying to figure out if anybody knows anybody who owned one or owns one, or any kind of information about it, so that to lead it. And nothing came of it, but I did find that an interesting tidbit. Getting through all of this. Oh, there, I just went through it. I was trying to find it in my notes, and there we go. There it is. It was posted with the headline, "Have you seen this 2-cell flashlight? This is a picture detail of the flashlight found at the scene of the Starks murder. This is a 2-cell all-metal flashlight. Both ends of which are painted red. 3 rivets hold the head of the flashlight to the body of the light. There has only been a limited number of these lights sold in this area. If you have owned or know anyone who owned one of these lights, report at once to Sheriff W.E. Davis, Miller County Courthouse, Texarkana, Arkansas. You may be the one to aid in solving the Phantom slayings." In the May 11th edition of the Texarkana Gazette, Sheriff Presley, you gotta love being the bottom neighbor. Although I like being on the bottom floor instead of the top floor. Because if I would be, I know I step heavy. I walk with purpose, and I walk with intention, and I'm not slow. That's for sure. Like, I run around at work. I'm always on like a 10 at work. Everyone's like, "Are you okay? What's wrong? Calm down." It's like, no, I just don't have, like, I do not have an off switch when I'm at work. I'm just like, I got tunnel vision. I got to run around. I got to get things done. Do not get in my way. I will run you down. But not on purpose. I honestly, I just, like, I cannot walk slow. I try. If I feel like I'm running or walking in mud or sand when I try to slow myself down, and I don't even realize how fast I'm going until I try to slow down to walk with somebody. And I have long legs too, so it doesn't take me that much. But I know living above people it probably wouldn't be fun. I mean, I'm not like I'm running around at home either, but I just know that that's probably not, for the most part, that's not stopping at home. I know that I mean, I am a dancer too, so it's not that I'm not graceful. I just know that I walk with a lot of purpose, and it's just heavy. Not that I'm like heavy, but I just like, I don't know if you understand what I'm saying, but whatever. Enough of that tangent. If you understand my pain or that type of thought, maybe we can be friends. They continue again. They try to get some kind of information. There's quotes in the Texarkana Gazette. Somebody in Texarkana or in Bowie or Miller County knows that somebody else was out of pocket on the nights of February 22nd, 23rd, March 23rd, 24th, April 13th, 14th, and May 3rd. Sheriff W.H. Presley and Chief of Police Jack Reynolds want persons who having such knowledge to report them immediately, said newspapers. The joint statement declared, "We want every man and woman in these two counties to recall the dates of these murders and also recall whether or not any person close to them was missing or out of the pocket during those nights. Persons who have such information and have been withholding it when they have known they should report it are leaving themselves open to possible charges of complicity in the event of the slayer's capture. Make no mistake about the fact that the slayer will be captured, because we will not give up this hunt until we have captured or killed. Also, all information received will be treated confidentially. We urge you to come in and tell us what you know. Don't be hesitant or fear that you are causing an innocent man embarrassment and trouble. In as much all investigation will be confidential. There is no time to take any chance on information which might lead us to the slayer. This maniac must be captured. We believe that we are justified in going to any ends to halt this chain of murder. Bear in mind, this killer may strike at anyone. He may strike any persons close to him. For that reason, we believe any person with information that may lead us to the murderer should act in interest of self-preservation." Alrighty, and then we have a reward of $2,500 to help to catch the killer of Virgil Starks. All the rewards summed up to about $10,000, and then Virgil's father added another $500 to the reward. Alright. Now we're on to the suspects. Which, like I said, there is one pretty much main suspect that they believe is the Phantom. There's one interesting, thoughtful, his nephew, I believe, thinks he is could be the Phantom. But for the most part, they don't really think he's connected. And then there's a couple smaller ones that have been ruled out. But maybe it's none of them at all. Maybe it's somebody else. Okay. In April, there was a man who tried to sell a saxophone. He tried to pawn it, and the person working there was like, "Let me talk to my manager," and he was acting really shady. So he dipped out, and they didn't catch him then, but then the man was caught trying to buy a .45 caliber gun. So that's when he was caught. But he didn't have the saxophone at the time either, so he was ruled out. He did have a bag of bloody clothes, but he said it was from a bar fight the night before. And then he got checked out and they ruled him out as a suspect. Trying to get to Yule. Alright, so here's the prime suspect. Max Tackett, the 33-year-old rookie, realized that there had been a car stolen at the night of one of the murders, and that the previously stolen car had been found abandoned on the night of the next murder. So he had started looking up different stolen cars, and trying to track them down. So on Friday, June 28th, 1946, Tackett found a car in the parking lot and had been reported stolen. He staked out the car until someone came back for it, and that was 21-year-old Peggy Sweeney. And she said she had just gotten married in Shreveport to her husband, who was currently in Atlanta, Texas, trying to sell another stolen car. Homer Carter, the chief of the Atlanta police, told Tackett that a man had been tried selling a stolen car to one of his citizens, but the citizen that they had tried to sell it to wouldn't come forward and identify the person. So I think they couldn't identify him on that. But he did have a cowboy hat. You wouldn't recognize him, but he would recognize you. Tackett then asked the citizen if he would be willing to walk with him into several public places, having an idea that the suspect would not want to see the citizen who had been trying to avoid him. So he was trying to maybe he saw him, he would run. On Saturday, Tackett walked into the Arkansas Motor Coach bus station in Front Street near the Union Station with the citizen and noticed a man run out of the back of the building. Tackett chased after him and caught him on the fire escape. That man was Yule Sweeney. Soon after the arrest, he made weird statements about kind of incriminating himself. So he asked he asked about getting sentenced to the electric chair, and he's like, dude, we have you on car theft. You don't get the death penalty for stealing cars. And he also it's like, don't shoot. It's like, he said, we're not going to shoot you, we just have you on car theft. And he's like, well, and he makes the statement, mister, you have me on more than just car theft. He didn't say what, but he had he was giving some kind of weird assumption that they must have him on something else besides that. Then Peggy just kind of turns on him and says he's the phantom killer. She starts just throwing him under the bus. Don't really know why. From what I remember, from some of the podcasts, there was maybe there were some coerced confessions going on, because her accounts of the crimes and her confessions they change a lot, and some of her her information does not really lead, it doesn't pan out. Some of the stuff that she says doesn't really pan out, and doesn't really come to light the way she says it does. So there's a lot of contradictory things in her statements, but it's still, there's still high probability that Lowell had something to do with it. Paint. Gotta love it. So she said that she was with, I believe it was the first one, that her first confession was that he had gone out to go to the bathroom and gone, like, they were out, he had to go to the bathroom, he was gone for an hour, he came back and he was soaked. And then it comes back that, like, she was involved with it, like they had drove around with Betty Jo, and that's why there was so many miles in between when they got rid of the bodies. So it, like I said, it changes up. And then they said that they had the saxophone, then they said that they had gotten rid of it, and then it was found right by where the bodies were. So why didn't she say that in the first place? Like, she didn't say where it was just found. And they said that they had gotten rid of it somewhere else. I guess there were times, and like I said, that there were, she was questioned for really long periods of time. So maybe they coerced her, maybe they roughed her up a little bit. It doesn't say. She couldn't be forced, because they were married, she couldn't be forced to testify against him anyway either. So that's why, again, there was another reason why they didn't pursue the Phantom, the murder charges on him. They couldn't really get it. Although, and then a shirt, this is where I can't remember, if you remember, earlier I talked about the slag and the piece of scrap metal that, because Stark was a welder as well as a farmer. Lowell Sweeney found on him, there was a piece of laundry that had his name on it, Stark's name on it, and there was a piece of metal in his pocket that matched some of the slag that was on the Stark's farm, in the farmhouse area. So there was that connection. But they did have that, but it's still, like, could have not, but they couldn't really get him on it. That's still circumstantial. It could have not been his name. Maybe they got some metal from somewhere else. Maybe they robbed it. I don't know. So there's just that. There's still a lot of doubt. I'm sure the DA didn't want to waste it. They can only try somebody once. So you don't want, if he gets found not guilty, you don't have him on anything. So you're screwed. So you gotta be ready when you're going into trial. Especially on a big case like that. So I'm sure the DA didn't want to risk it on circumstantial evidence and an unreliable witness who's married to the suspect. Yeah, I don't think so. And they can't force her to testify, so they can't really get it. But they get him on the car theft, and he was a repeat offender, so he was originally sentenced to life in prison. but I believe he only spent like 23 years because he got out. I believe he got out in the 70s because it was found that he wasn't represented properly. And then he died in a nursing home. And I believe it was the same nursing home that he lived with his mother. And so that's what happened. I mean, she was arrested for a time, but then she, for conspiracy and for her involvement, but eventually was released. But for the most part, people do believe that it was Lowell. So the circumstantial evidence, I went over most of this. They were arrested stealing the cars reported missing on the night of the murders, the Polly-Ann Moore and Griffin murders. When, like I said, he was on the fire escape, he said, don't shoot me. He said, I'm not going to shoot you for stealing cars. Mister, don't play games with me. You want me for more than stealing cars. I'm sure maybe he recognized him and thought, oh yeah, he wants me for the Phantom. Maybe he was just making that connection, but it's still something really odd. And he said, what do you think they'll do to me? Do you think I'll get the electric chair? It's like 5 to 10 years. They don't give the electric chair for stealing cars. So and then he stopped talking too. He didn't even like profess his innocence. He just stopped talking. And then she, like I said, she just kept talking, but a lot of what she said wasn't really connected properly or pan out in that way. And then she said when they caught him for murder, husband was being held, when they told her husband was being held for murder, she says, how did they find out? Like, considering how elusive he was supposed to be, the way they're talking, it seems like they're not too elusive or too bright about not being caught. So if it really is him, that's why I was saying, it's like, it really don't have to be that elusive to not get caught during that time period of like, you just don't leave evidence behind. Don't get caught red-handed and you're pretty much golden. Because I don't think somebody who was elusive would say any of the things that they said when they got caught. I'm not saying that he's not the murderer. I'm saying that the profile of him being elusive or being super smart to be evade police is not as true as they said. Peggy's family believed that he was the Phantom, and then I said they found the clothes that said the word Stark in them under blacklight, and they found the welding, the metal in his pocket that matched Virgil Stark's metal from his shop. He previously owned a .32 caliber gun, but he said he sold it in a game of craps. He didn't have it anymore, so maybe he sold it, and that's why he had to get the .22 afterwards, because he didn't have it. But he could be lying. He could have just gotten rid of it. And like I said, he just stopped talking. After he made those remarks, he just stopped talking. Instead of, he didn't plead for his innocence or anything. He just stopped talking. And then Peggy did confess to a lot of it, but again, some of the stuff changed, and or didn't pan out the way she said they did. So her testimony is not very reliable. Even if they were able to get her to testify, I think she would have gotten on the stand, and they could have just torn it apart. Defense could have just torn it apart and there would have just been a lot of doubt. I don't really think on what they had, they could have I'm not sure they really could have gotten a conviction, even if they had decided to go to court with it. I don't think so. I don't think it would have been wise, which is probably why they didn't. So his fingerprints did not match any of the fingerprints on the Booker Martin crime scene, but there could have been that one was done a little bit better than the Polly Ann Moore case attack, but who's to say that the fingerprints that they found didn't belong to one of the people who trampled across the crime scene. He could have been wearing gloves that night, and so that's why his fingerprints didn't match anything, because those weren't fingerprints for those fingerprints didn't actually belong to the person who committed the crimes. They don't have fingerprints to link it within the cases. They don't even have matching fingerprints within each of the cases, so those fingerprints could potentially not even belong to anybody involved in the case. Who's to say? I mean, it's a car. Maybe those fingerprints were on the car, it was parked at a parking lot. Maybe somebody walked by, put their hand on, and walked away. So that fingerprint could have been from some random person, not even the killer. He didn't confess, and he denied being the Phantom. He never made a confession, although he never really even said much. They tried for 6 months, day and night, to get her story to match correctly, or figure out their whereabouts, but it didn't match. And so they didn't really think she was telling the truth on a lot of it. And even on the night of the Booker Martin case, the couple was sleeping in their car under the bridge in San Antonio. I don't know who verified that. If they're sleeping in a car, I don't know who witnessed that, so I don't really know. And then there was a prank or a true confession of an anonymous woman who contacted the members of two of the victims in 1999 and another in 2000, apologizing for what her father had done. And Ewell didn't have a daughter, so it could have been a prank. We don't know who, or it could have actually been the daughter of whoever it was. But it seems like, why? And that's a horrible prank to play. But I know that people do that all the time. There's lots of false confessions, which I think is horrible. I mean, just like in the Jack the Ripper case, they have those, and all those other, people write in and it's just a copycat or whatever, just wanting attention. That's just horrible, though. But if it was her father, why not come forward? Why not tell the police what you have? Did he leave you a confession? Did he tell you on his deathbed? What? Let's figure it out. Why not come forward and tell the police? I know it's been so many years. In 2000, it's been, but let's actually put an ending to this case. And our next, this is the other one I was talking about, who is a suspect, but not really. Although I believe his nephew believes that he could have been the actual Phantom, but I'm not really completely convinced. There is some interesting evidence, but I don't really know if it really was him or not. So his name is H.B. Tennyson. His nickname, I love how all of the podcasts are make fun of or make some kind of joke about his nickname is Duty, which I know was the nickname back then, and all it makes me think of is Doofy from Scary Movie, which is terrible. But yeah, it's just not a good nickname. How do you take somebody serious with that name? I mean, he was only 18 at the time, but that's just not a good nickname. Let's just not use that nickname for anybody anymore. So he was an 18-year-old freshman at University of Arkansas. His name was Henry Booker, HB. And he was found dead in his home in Arkansas. And he had died by suicide. He had killed himself. He had purchased cyanide mercury. Then he was saying it was going to be rat poison, but they found a note with him, reading, the opening to my box will be found in the following few lines. In a tube of paper is found, rolls on colors, and is dry. It is dry and sound. The head removes, the tail will turn, and inside is the sheet you yearn. 2 B's means a lot when they are together. These clues should lead you to it. And a note was found inside a fountain pen marked BB, for a double broad nib. Poison was found on the cap, and a note inside the pen contained clues to a combination of the lockbox. Not in the mood for such intricacies, the police decided that they were just going to get into this lockbox. They forced their way in. Inside was a Viewmaster with several rolls of film from Mexico and a stack of papers. Under the stack of papers was a confession. It was his suicide note and his confession. It says, "To whom it may concern, this is my last word to you fine people, and you are fine. I want to thank you all for all the trouble that you have gone to send me to college and to bring me up. You have really been wonderful. My thanks to Ella Lee, Mrs. McGee, the owner of the house where he was rooming, for letting me stay with her during my college career, and to Belva Jo, Mrs. McGee's 12-year-old daughter." He's only 18. He's 18 at the time. "For putting up with me the way she did. She had to know, but I fell in love with her about a week ago. If she was older, I would have asked her to marry me, but that would be impossible. Why would I take my own life? Well, you would when you committed 2 double murders, you would too. Yes, I did kill Betty Jo Booker and Paul Martin in the city park that night, and killed Mr. Starks and tried to kill Mrs. Stark. You wouldn't have guessed it. I did it when my mother was either out or asleep, and no one saw me do it. For the guns, I disassembled them and discarded them in different places. When I am found, which has already been done, please give this typewriter to Craig, his brother, and tell him that I hope that his child is a boy, and it will help him with his work. Everything can go wherever you think it will do best, except for the Viewmaster, which will go to Belva Jo. Please take my bankroll and give it to Daddy. I think it should go to him, and tell him I don't want the car now. Well, goodbye, everybody. See you sometime if I make the grade, which will be hard for me to make. H.B. Tennyson." And then there was a lot of rough drafts in pencil and completed typewritten copies. He had even created his own newspaper headlines mentioning his body found. One read, UA student found dead, UA student commits suicide, do not disturb, he printed words on one, do not disturb death in the making. He wrote his own epitaph. Here lies H.B. Tennyson, born February 12, 1930, died October 2nd, 1948. He committed suicide for the happiness of his family. May he rest in peace. Amen. The officers found more notes through Sheriff Sider, and those sheriffs had no idea. The notes, except for the epitaph, none of the notes were dated, so they really didn't know. They really didn't know the order of when these notes were. There's a lot of rough drafts and everything, so it's like hard to know which ones came first. His fingerprints were taken. They didn't match any of the scene either, and they didn't really. And even the families of the the victims didn't believe he had anything to do with the crimes either. Then they also found a note. After they found that note, they found another note. But again, they don't have and none of them are dated, so they don't know which ones came first. He said, "Please disregard all of their messages which I have written. They are only thoughts of which I was thinking about as possible reasons for taking my own life." Why would you confess that if it's really not? Like, you have to be, as I think about it, it is none of these things. They are not the reasons for this incident. There's much later point to it all. Happiness, yes, happiness. If I am out of the way, all the family can get down to their own lives. Mother will not have to worry about making my grades, and Daddy will not have to put out any more money on me, which would do more good than it did in high school. No more good than it did in high school. No one will have to worry about me, keep having to push me through things, which would be the best for me. After much thought, I decided to take this way out. It took more thought than anyone can think possible. It started about a week ago when I began to think of ways to get out of this. Running away would not do any good. The police would find me wherever I would and bring me back to it all. No, Mother or Daddy are not to blame. It is just me. If I had done what they told me to do, this would have never happened. Studying instead of playing around and going out with the people in my age group instead of staying home and dreaming. So his friend Jamie Freeman said that they were together the night of the Stark murder. They found out, they had heard about it together. His family said that he didn't even know how to drive. He didn't really know anything about guns, although there are pictures of him later with guns, but he didn't have any of those guns. He didn't really know anything about that. His father said that he did have some mental health issues and he was depressed. So he didn't know. They said they didn't know how to learn. He didn't learn to drive until 47. And his fingerprints didn't match. Oh God. Gotta love working at night. I work at night. I feel like I'm not doing good. I'm just kidding. Sorry. I love that special. But I have it's earlier in the day that I'm filming this one, so I'm a little bit, I feel like I wake up as the day goes on. So I'm still waking up. Even though I got up early today, I'm still waking up. So he was 6'3", he was tall, but he was only 130 pounds, so he was slight built. So they think that he wouldn't have been able to really carry any of them, pick them up, put them back in the car. But he was tall, like Larry and Hollis said. So maybe he wasn't. Maybe he was stronger than he looked. He would have only been 16 at the time. Where's the year? Yeah, he would have only been 16 at the time. He was 18 when he died. So, who's to say if he really was strong enough to do that at 16? He only being 130 pounds, but maybe it was all muscle. I don't really think he was the murderer, although his nephew, I believe his great nephew or whatever, although I don't know if he's just looking for attention, he has his own theories about it. Apparently he has connections to all of the victims. He worked at the movie theater where they all went the night that they were murdered. Not all of them, I guess, but the first two, he worked at the movie theater. so he could have seen them going into the theater that night. He was in the same class and the same band as Betty Jo, and I believe it was that he babysat for the sister of Mrs. Stark, so he could have seen them all. And that even though they said he didn't know how to do all this, like, work with guns, I guess he did. There was evidence to believe that he didn't know more than he said. And if that is true, it kind of makes me think of, like, the documentary that they just did recently with the Scott Peterson case, and his family, like, they have, like, an excuse for every single thing, and it's like, no, it just looks bad. Like, you don't have to have an excuse for everything. So if those are all the case, maybe he did, but he didn't confess to all of them. He just confessed to the last two. So who's to say? Maybe it was both of them. I'm not saying there wasn't two. Maybe there was two, but it's like, it's hard to go back and forth. There's a lot of doubt. I had scrolled up to get the date. Now I'm like, bleh. Here we go. Yes, he was a part-time usher, so he worked at the movie theater. Okay, so yeah, so there's like there is theories that maybe he really did do it, but I don't think so. I mean, who's to say? Maybe it's none of these people, and he wouldn't still be out there, but maybe he did get away with it. I mean, after Newell was caught and sentenced to prison, they didn't have any more attacks either. So, I mean, there is evidence to believe that maybe he is the Phantom. But maybe he just left the area. So those are the two main ones. Then we get into, like, some off ones but had been ruled out. So we have the German prisoner of war. Oh, Lord Jesus. I'm such a night owl. Ugh. Wednesday, May 8th, it was announced that escaped German prisoner of war, considered a suspect. He was hunted as a matter of routine, and he described as a stocky 24-year-old weighing 187 pounds with brown hair, blue eyes. And he had stolen a car in Mount Ida, Arkansas, attempting to buy ammunition in several eastern Oklahoma towns, and then Tuesday, May 7th, I thought there was more. I had more information on that one. But he didn't end up being it. There wasn't enough evidence to really link him. And then on May 7th, there was a 45-year-old black man named Herbert Thomas was flagged down by a hitchhiker in Kilgore. The hitchhiker offered $5 and said that he needed a ride to Henderson because his mother was seriously ill. Thomas said that he would not normally have given the man a ride, but he felt like he needed to because the man had such a sad story. When they neared Henderson, the hitchhiker pulled out a pistol and told Thomas to keep driving or he would kill him, like he had killed 5 people in Texarkana, mentioning Paul, Martin, and Betty Jo Brooker by name. The man told Thomas that he was not done killing and he was going to return to Texarkana to kill Martin's father. The suspect apparently did not know that Martin's father was already dead, so who knows whether that was just something to scare him off. The man then ordered Thomas to turn around in Lufkin, drive him back to Kilgore, and threatened that if Thomas followed him, he would kill him. The man then stole his $5 as well as an additional $3 and Thomas drove back to Kilburn and reported the incident to police. Thomas described the man as 5'8", 130 pounds, 28-year-old with red hair, wearing khaki trousers and a GI jacket. During the same night in Lufkin, local resident Robert Atkins was spotted peeping Tom at his window. He grabbed a flashlight and chased down the man, but it escaped. He got in his car and he was looking for him, catching a man he believed was the peeping Tom, but the man convinced asking that he was not the one peeping in his window. He was just taking his girlfriend home. He later heard the story about Thomas and described it to the police. 5'9", wearing khakis, red hair, and had been dark red hair. Gonzalez said, "We don't believe the man who killed 5 people in the past week." So they didn't. Again, it was ruled out. There was a lot of false confessions. There was a lot of people turning in different people. They searched for the POW and said that he had vanished into thin air. But again, there really wasn't enough. Then there's in Friday, May 10th in Oklahoma. So there is a little bit of that. Let's check out surrounding areas and see if somebody else has been attacked and see if we can connect it at all. So that does happen a little bit. A man walked up to her house, opened the screen door, asked the resident, Mrs. Harmon, if he could have some turpentine, food, and money. She told the man that she didn't have very much. The man responded by grabbing her by the hair and dragged her onto the porch, ranting that he might as well kill her because he'd already killed 3 or 4 people. There come lost my place. Gotta love when the phone distracts you. And then he was going to rape her. He then heard a horse galloping towards them and told her, "There comes a man." He told her, "There comes a man on a horse. If you report this to the officers, I'll come back and kill you." After the man ran off, she took her child with her to the neighbor's house, and she did report it. There was a search for him. She described him 5'9" to 5'10", white man, 40 to 45 years old, 150 to 155 pounds. Dark hair and in badly need of a shave. So probably an unkept beard. I like a beard, but probably like a crazy beard. Was wearing gloves, faded blue shirt, khakis, dirty old colored floppy hat, dark colored hat. They did arrest a suspect. Had gloves. The suspect had gloves. Mrs. Harmon identified the same gloves worn by her attacker. He was wearing the same blue clothes. The pocket knife that the 30-year-old was carrying, though, had a blade much shorter than 5 inches, and the man was clean shaven. So they didn't believe that he was the Phantom, but they couldn't really identify him either way. So they kept him in the prison or in the jail for like 3 weeks to make the beard grow, like to wait for the beard to grow back to see if he could then be identified, but he ended up not being identified. She couldn't identify him after all that. I would have been like, I don't think they could do that today. That's insane. I think they would have just had to do the identification with the clean shaven, or maybe like put a fake beard on him. I don't know. That just seems like against. You can only hold somebody for so long. It just seems. I don't think they could get away with that today. I would hope not. So then there's this. The next one just sounds like somebody who was having some mental trouble, mental illness issues, for him to think that he himself believed that he was the Phantom. Ow, I need a better cushion. Thursday, May 23rd, 1946, 21-year-old ex-Army Air Force B-24 machine gunner by the name of Ralph B. Bonham told Los Angeles police that he thought he might be the Phantom. He said, "I've been in a coma running from something, maybe murder. I want to clear it up. If I did kill 5 people in Texarkana, I want to settle down. If I didn't kill the 5 people, I want to settle down and be a stuntman in Hollywood. I'm the happiest when I'm living in danger." Previously had gone to the Los Angeles Examiner and told a reporter, "I want to sell you some murder information. I know who and where the Texarkana killer is. Give me $5 and let me have an hour's head start, and then you can." He gave him like the information envelope and then left. On a certain day in March, I was in Texarkana Theater watching a Path News picture of war when the party of persons acted wise and said that they were overreacting, and it got me. I followed them home. I killed them within a period of 3 days. Police arrested the redhead at a downtown shooting gallery where he had just shot his 23rd bullseye in a row with a .22 caliber rifle. I'm my own suspect, he claimed to have been in a coma for several weeks, waking up with a coma on May 3rd with his rifle missing, and heard about the suspect matching his description, and he then hitchhiked to Los Angeles, feeling like he was running from murder. Bauman said that he was discharged from the AAF in 1945 for being psychoneurotic, and the chief of police informed, "I feel that the man is certainly a mental case. The Texarkana killings could have been the work of a mental case, and so far as we know, this man could have done it, but we have absolutely no facts, and they will have to be developed if they exist." Yeah, they don't. I don't think that it was him either. Oh. Before I get to the hypnotized suspect, Lowell, they wanted to try to get him to confess, so they decide to shoot him up with some of that sodium pentothal, the truth serum, but they give him too much, and he passes out. So they guess they don't want to do it again, so they don't actually end up being able to they don't actually question him while he's on that information. But there is somebody who does get questioned and hypnotized. They don't use that, but they do hypnotize him to try and see if he's hiding anything. The police arrested a black man in his 30s with tire tracks that matched on the road of from Martin's corpse. James Priestley later gave this man the pseudonym Sammy. He denied being a part of the murder. Where their remains were found, he was unable to account for his tire tracks there, though, and he failed the polygraph test. But so they decided he didn't have a criminal record. He had good reputation in this area as a resident. So they decided to hypnotize him and have him interviewed by a psychiatrist. And while they were talking, he definitely, like, the psychiatrist said, "You have the wrong man. He doesn't have any criminal tendencies," but they still didn't know why he had lied on the polygraph test, and they didn't know why his tire marks were there. So they continued to talk to him. He finally did say he was there. He was there. He pulled off the road because he had to go to the bathroom. So he relieved himself off the road. And the reason why he was nervous and lying on the polygraph was because he was going to see he was having an affair with a married white woman, so he was nervous about that getting out. And during that time, tensions were high. So So that was why he had been nervous and why he had failed the polygraph. So then he was ruled out as a suspect. And then there was lots of failed false confessions. There was one where the town drunk told the press, "Yeah, I'll give you confession." So they called the police to get him. He told the press, and then they called it in, and the guy said, the officer immediately recognized him and was like, "You're not the killer." He's like, "I know, but I got a fifth of whiskey out of it anyway, so why not?" So of course, in every case, you're gonna have false confessions. You're gonna have people confessing to it. You're gonna have people turning in their family members that they don't like. So that's always difficult in that situation, especially when you don't have a lot of evidence to go off of. So somebody calls in with a story that sounds plausible. Like, how do you know when to take it seriously and when to not? So that's always hard to know. So here we go. I'm gonna we're getting there with our paintings. I'm gonna go over some of the burn lines a little bit more to not exaggerate them, but just bring them out a little bit more because some of the paint's going over it. But I'm gonna do that again soon. So then we got the Earl Mcspadden information. I think I'm gonna break this up. Thinking out loud here, guys. Okay, so Earl Mcspadden. The reason why I bring this up is because it's in the second film. They really don't think that he has anything to do with this case at all, but there is theories that he might. So the idea is, so 4 days after the Stark murder, May 7th, 1946, a man was found on the Kansas City Southern Railroad, 16 miles north from North Texarkana, near Ogden. He was lying face down the tracks, with his head pointed north, and the man's left arm severed at the elbow, the leg was severed at the hip, and they were inside the tracks, and he had been cut off by the freight train, and had been passed at like 5:30 in the morning. And the body was taken to the Phillips Funeral Home in Ashton. The coroner's jury verdict said the death had been at the hands of the unknown person. He had been stabbed and killed and then placed on the train tracks. So but there's theories. The Sheriff Jim Sanderson, however, scoffed at the coroner's report and said the man died when he fell under the wheels of the train, and the coroner examined the body a second time, found further evidence of murder. The Little River County coroner explained, "We found deep cuts over the man's temple, 2 inches wide, and found that were sufficiently deep enough to cause death." So they believe that he was murdered and then he was placed there to cover up the murder. And again, this is an area that, it was it's not whatever you call it, it's not a stranger to crime, so it's not like it's there. It could have been another crime at that time, so let's just make a mess. I'm really good at that. So there's not to say that it couldn't have been somebody else's. But yeah, they didn't believe so they believe he was murdered and then left there. I'm trying to get to the... Okay, so they identified him as Earl Mcspadden from his social security card. And that Earl, it was... His brother said that he traveled around a lot. So, I mean, and his brother, he wasn't sure why his brother was living there at the time. It was found that he was registered at the unemployment services in Shreveport, and the body was taken by a funeral home. Because the murder is unsolved, locals have speculated that Mcspadden was a sixth victim of the Phantoms, but there's also a rumor that he was the actual Phantom and then he committed suicide by jumping in front of the train, or maybe that somebody found out that he was it and that killed him and then put him under the train. But I feel like because they said that he was stabbed, that it was pretty much murder, that they were pretty sure it was murder. So maybe somebody killed him and then made it look like an accident so that they could kill the Phantom. But I mean, if I feel like as much splash as that area made, if you killed the Phantom, you would like get a freaking parade. So why would you want to hide it if that was the case? Not that I'm saying that's something you should do. I'm just saying in this situation. But they use the reason why I bring this up is because it becomes part of the sequel to the town the Town That Dreaded Sundown. So it's something that we're going to come back to. So I wanted to bring that up first. But they really don't think it has anything to do with it. There's just some conspiracy theories thinking that it might have something to do with it. That maybe he was it, maybe he was a victim. Who knows? And then there was in 1956, worker in July, they found some bloody clothes where the Martins' car was found, and the clothes were sent to a laboratory in Austin, Texas, and to determine if they were bloodstains. The evidence, before the test results came in, the officers they were cautious to link it to the particular murders in the area, but this was quite 10 years later. They were blood, but they didn't have a blood type. And then officers were concerned and made a long-distance phone call to the Bureau of Investigation of the State Department of Public Safety and were told that there had been a mistake, and the letter should not have said that the stains were the stains were not there should have been, the letter should have said that they were not blood, and it turned out to be paint. But there's still a rumor that it was blood, and it was part of the Phantom case. But it was 10 years later. Like, why would they have not seen that beforehand? Seems like that's a little odd. It could have, like, if these were bloodstained clothes, like, was there not other crimes in that area? I think so. Alrighty. So I'm gonna have to break this up because this is a long one. I'm gonna keep going, but I'm probably breaking this up into two parts. Alrighty. So now let's get to the films, and these are pretty entertaining, I have to say. I like the original better, but I'll get into why. Alright. The Town That Dreaded Sundown, 1976. Let me get to the correct page. So, it's like a B slasher, directed by Charles B. Pierce. He did The Legend of Boggy Creek. He's like one of those like B slasher movie kind of things. And when it first came out, he did this like, it's a true story, not based on a true story. Like, no, it's a true story. Like, this is real. It's terrifying. Like, be on the lookout. And when it came out, the town itself was like, hey, that's not how actually it happened. And they got really upset. But then, as years go by, they kind of lean into it. And they actually show it. There's in a Halloween, like, festival. They show it on the big screen every year, like at a drive-in. So eventually they just kind of lean into it, and it's a fun, I mean, the thing that makes it scary is that even though it didn't happen exactly the way it does in the film, these crimes did happen, and so that's, I think, what makes it really scary, which I always think is more, for me, unless it's actually supernatural, the show, the scary parts, scary stuff for me is always scarier when it's like a murderer, a serial killer, something that can actually happen, not like ghosts and supernatural items. Because if it's supernatural, I just want Dean to come rescue me, but whatever. That's for another show. But yeah, so there's, you know, I think that is scarier for me than anything, than just like something fake. Or I guess, I mean, I'm not saying that ghosts aren't real or whatever, who knows, but for me, like a murderer, something that like is more likely to happen as far as like that is concerned, is scarier to me than like something else. I don't know. My brain, I'm trying to paint and I can't think the word at the same time. But I really think that, yeah, that like real murder stuff is scarier to me. So I think that's why this one it just comes out a little bit scarier when you think about it in that way. When you think about it just being a slasher film, yeah, it's not super scary, but when you think about it as a big picture, yeah, it's a little bit nerve-wracking that these kind of attacks actually did happen and they did not solve them. So yeah, it's a little nerve-wracking. It's written by Earl E. Smith. And then Ben Johnson, Andrew Prine, Don Wells, Jimmy Clenn, Jimmy City, Charles B. Pierce as Benson. So he was actually in the movie, and I think if he hadn't passed yet, I think they said something about him being like a person in the background as well in the second one. Don Wells plays the Mrs. Stark character. Her name is Helen Reed in the film, but she's Marianne from Gilligan's Island. But it's actually a pretty good film, I think. So let's get onto it. From what the Horrorphile podcast talks about is that he during the murder scenes, they he didn't allow them to talk to each other, so I think the reactions are like pretty terrifying. Like if you're, there we go. Yeah, they're pretty terrifying, thinking about somebody who like going through that, and like, yeah, they didn't allow like the guy who played the killer to talk to the victim, the people playing the victims, and they didn't talk to each other. They got rid of everybody but like the camera crew. So it was like a super quiet, close set, and it just what was happening. So I think that did help get some of the pretty good reactions as far as like the terror going. And I do have to say, like, because it's in a fake documentary style, there's like a narrator that talks throughout the film and kind of sets it up like it's like almost like a reenactment playing out. And they did get the hysteria pretty well. It's like it shows them locking their doors, boarding it up. Everybody's like terrified. They do reenact the guy who almost got shot. The police officer who almost got shot. So there's so there's a lot. I think it did that well for sure. Whether or not itself was that scary, I do think that came off. The hysteria that was felt in the town, I think, was felt in the film too. And as far as, even though it's not completely accurate, they did follow the lines. They did follow the crimes fairly closely. So they set up the first murder. They do survive the attack, although they make it a little bit more, I mean, for them it's not exciting, but the murderer comes and like pulls the like a bunch of cords, but electrical equipment out of the car, and then they just like try to get out of it, but he just like pulls them out of the car. And so there's not much like in the real attack, he talks to them and tells them to like run and take their britches off, and so there's like more context, so it made it more like a silent attack versus what actually happened. And then they're found the next morning. They really don't, and then again they don't have anything from it. The second one, they make it a little bit more interesting, because again, like I had said, that is like the cleanest of the attacks, because sorry, I thought I lost all of my recordings, but I didn't. I did just put my hand in clown paint. That's cool. That's fun. I love that. I don't want to waste it either. Shit. I mean, I am a clown, I guess. I don't know. I accidentally stopped recording and then started recording with all of my wild gesturing. So I thought in that moment I lost everything, and I was gonna cry because I've been recording for like almost 4 hours, and and this is almost done. So like, what am I gonna have to record over? Find a whole new craft to do? Nope. If that would be the case, I'd just start drinking. We'll be done for this week. You would just get sad, spooky bitch crying and sadness. That's just what would have happened. Hold on, I'm just taking a break for a second to go over some of the lines a little bit. I don't want to I want to go over that one. There's a couple I want to really go over, and then there's a couple I don't. I want to leave it because I liked how the paint came out, but I do want to exaggerate some of the lines a little bit. Because I love the look of burnt wood, but I also still love to paint. So this is my way of combining it with a craft from one of my favorite Halloween, Frankenweenie, whatever. Word association from one of my favorite Halloween themed films. Though it's not really although it's not really a Halloween film. I mean, there's a couple. They have the special Halloween traditions, but it's not really a Halloween film. It's a magical love film. All right. So so now that I don't have to worry about having a heart attack and having to re-record everything, we can move on in the film. So we're on, like I said, we're on the Town That Dreaded Sundown, and it is we're on the second crime. And like I said, they make this one still a little bit more still a little bit more entertaining, at least to watch, since we don't know that much about what actually happened during that crime. They needed to make it a little bit more interesting, of course, to watch on the film. So that's what they did. So they're showing it at the same, almost happening at the same time. The crime is happening, and it's also happening, almost feels like it's happening during the day, which none of them actually do happen during the day. So he's going up to the Phantom's going up to the car, and there's my cut. There we go. I'm gonna remember. So that one's the darker one. Okay, cool. Make it a little bit darker. There we go. So we're following the Phantom up to the car. We hear the gunshots. At the same time, we see the sheriff pulling up, sees the abandoned car, which belongs to the Phantom, and then he hears the gunshots. He tries to follow the shots to where it's happening. He discovers the bodies, sees the Phantom trying to run away. So it's like a big chase scene. He's shooting him off, and then they discover the bodies. So the thing is that never actually happened. Of course, there wasn't a standoff like that. Because if that were the case, it probably would have caught him. So he runs off. They don't catch him. They find the bodies, and they start the investigation. Things start to, and the thing with the film too is that it seems like they connect it a little bit faster than the actual investigation did. Was like, oh, we have a murderer, we have this attacker, okay, we need to start investigating now, kind of thing. So they do investigate it. They're starting, but they don't really have anything to go off of. They still have the questions about the two that survived the attack. But yeah, it's not like, it's a little bit different. Whew. Ow. Hurting. I need to stop my wild gesturing. It's confusing my camera. I did it again. But everything's still good. I just started over. Alright, so before I get on to the next attack, the Booker attack. It's not called the Booker attack. They do change the names, of course. My first thoughts on this film was I want every single car in this film. I love most everything vintage clothes, vintage style, vintage makeup, blah blah blah. Not saying everything back then was good. I just like this. I just like the look of it. Okay. I wear my hair like this at work every day. I just like it. It's different. It's fun. So, except for the murders that are happening in this town, I would love to have all of the cars that are. I would love all of the cars. Those are dark too, right? Okay. Oh my god, I am such a weirdo. Yeah, when it comes to vintage fashion like that, I just, head over heels. I love it so much. But, and in the first attack, when they're chilling in the car, like, they're not doing anything, which I know is like probably a censor thing. He's just like laying in her lap, nothing's going on. It just makes me laugh. But anyways, we'll move on now to the murder. So like, she's playing in the band just like Betty Jo, but she plays the trombone, not the saxophone. And I think and then probably because they couldn't do what they were about to do with the saxophone. And the other thing is, from Larry's account, they said that there was an eye holes and mouth holes in the mask that he was wearing, and in the movie it's just eye holes, which also makes this scene a little more ridiculous. So they're at the Lover's Lane. He comes up, the Phantom comes up, he breaks open the window, he tries to pull him out, they try to back up, there's all this like back and forth, like they're fighting. He pulls the guy out of the car. They're going straight, like they're just speeding, so she tries to grab the wheel, and then they end up crashing. And so they're fighting, and I know that they wanted to bring up the fight, the struggle that they did actually have in the real case, so they like wanted to be a little bit more theatrical with it. But yeah, it's back and forth. So he grabs the guy, he's attacking him, and again, this is where like I think they mention a little bit more of the Zodiac versus actual Phantom, is that this is more of a stabbing than a shot, gunshot wounds. So he has the guy outside the car. She's screaming, of course. And I mean, it's scary. I'm not putting that past them on that, of course, at all. But he's attacking him. He's kind of stabbing him. He tries to run away, and then he catches up with the girl, and he grabs a hold of her. She's screaming, "Let me go!" And then he ties her to a tree, like bear hugged around a tree, and she's screaming like for him to run away. And after he ties her up, she's telling him to run, and he finally gets up and starts to run away. But the Phantom sees that and decides to leave her there, tied to the tree. Like, where's she going? Where would she actually be going? Honestly, she's tied. I mean, of course, you'd say you're gonna try and fight, so like whatever. But so he goes over to the guy and finishes the job. He stabs him, and she's screaming, and he falls to the ground. And then he comes back to her and sets up the murder. And this is the trombone scene. So he ties a knife to the slide, to the trombone, and then proceeds to play the trombone. Whew. I almost had a tragedy happen. I reached my max. I knew it was happening. I knew it was getting close, but I reached my max recording. So I had to go delete some stuff real quick. I had my last episode still on my phone, and so I had to go delete that real quick. But anyway, so he attaches the knife to the slide, then proceeds to play the trombone through no mouth hole, and then use the slide. But honestly, the slide isn't connected to the breath. Like, I mean, it is if you're actually playing it, but like, you don't need to breathe in it to use the slide. So it was like a kind of weirdly comedic point I mean, they don't show the they show her getting stabbed, but they don't show the actual stab wound, which is kind of nice because it wasn't like super graphic. But yeah, he stabs her against the tree while playing it, even though you don't really need to play it to. That doesn't, like, that's not necessary to for the stabbing, but that kind of just shows the insanity that is the Phantom. So I can see that too. Alright, so then again we've got more. Then it starts to show the hysteria. It shows people, the curfews. It shows people locking up their houses. And then we get to what is the Virgil Starks. Why can I not remember her name? I kept changing it, not changing it, but just my brain. It's gonna, there it is. Virgil, Catherine Starks. Duh. Okay. I wanted to say something else. I don't know why. So Catherine, it's the Virgil and Catherine Starks attack. So they're in there, and this is the one that's played by Marianne. And it shows them, I realized this, I watched it again, and I realized that, like, they kind of show her interacting with the Phantom without knowing it. Like, they see, she, like, makes eye contact with somebody getting out of her car, and then they show his boots, and it's the same boots. Because they kind of follow the Phantom. You never see his face. I mean, it's in the sack, but you never see his actual face. But you see his boots, and it's the same boots, so you know that he's following her. And then it goes to the house. The husband gets shot through the window, then she gets shot, and this is where, like, I'm like, it's like pleasantly surprised on, like, that it's not gonna be as gory, because I mean it would just look fake for the amount that they would have had to do. I mean, you see the wound, but you don't, like, it's not as bloody and stuff as it actually was, of her running around trying to get to the phone, trying to get to the gun, try to run through the outside to get to try and get help, and then they do, and then of course she does survive and he does not, just like the real case. And then all of the hysteria ramps up even more, just like in the real case. And then they say that, like, they can't find him. They don't think that she has any real information to help find him. They do right before that, the Starks cases, they chase after somebody who'd been stealing cars and falsely confesses, and then the Starks thing happens as well. And they try, and they don't, which is kind of interesting about the film, is they don't put a neat little bow on it. They don't ever really reveal, they don't try to answer who, they don't go with a theory on who they think it was. They just show him getting away. They do have him have a shootout with the police, which never happened. Like, they show him running through a swamp, and then the narrator's like, they say he might be in the swamp to this day. We never know anything that actually happened. Like, is he still out there? Did they catch him? They don't know. Like, kind of leave it open-ended, but they don't. And then some people who don't like the film, it's because they didn't answer who the Phantom was. And I mean, but we don't know who it is. So instead of, like, going with one of the theories of who it might be, they just decide to leave it open-ended. And then also in the film there's, and which I think is probably like kind of a scary point, is that because you don't know who it was and they don't know who might have been listening, is that they have there's a scene where they have the investigators and the doctor and the profiler talking at a dinner table in a restaurant, which is what they said that you shouldn't be doing, of course, but talking about it. And then as they cut and the Phantom gets up and walks out, you see the boots leaving, so he was there listening. And that was also right before the Stark case thing, so that also explains why he might have changed his MO, is because they knew that he was onto them. Okay, so I'm gonna go over some of the pieces. Hi. What?
Wherever you get them. You want to come look at the fan?
Yeah, when I'm done.
Okay. I love you.
I love you. All right. Sorry. So I'm gonna go over these. I'm gonna go over some of the lines a little bit right now. So, but we've got our images and our burns. I'm really excited the way this is actually coming out. I'm really excited. All right. So let's do this. So, like I said, that one, it ends open-ended. And then, of course, so now we have our second one. The second Texarkana one. Did I get everything? I think I got pretty much everything. I did like it. Oh, they do, besides some of the hysteria, they do the they do a scene where they have some of the officers dressed up as females, which probably wouldn't go over too well today. Kind of insensitive, but they're dressed up and they make it out to be kind of a joke instead of being serious about it. As them trying to bait the Phantom out, which of course it doesn't work. I believe they have a scene where they almost get shot by somebody who has a gun in their car because they didn't announce themselves. They show the cat in the trash can. So they just kind of like go over some of like the actual hysteria that was happening during that town. Besides that, like it not being like super funny, but the thing I like about it is that it does have a bit of humor in it. There's scenes where it's just like kind of ridiculous and it kind of doesn't take itself super seriously. Although it is scary, it doesn't have that melodramatic feel to it that kind of leans on that a lot of scary slasher films do, which is why the second one probably didn't do as well. I mean, the first one's a B movie anyway, but I think that's probably the reason why, is that this second film, I know that something that my thought was what Lifetime films and like modern day slasher films have in common is they are just like one note melodrama. Like everybody's on the verge of tears or screaming all of the time. There's just like nothing in between, you know. And I'm not saying that like in a murder case or it's not scary and it's not not serious, but there's always comedy and drama and comedy. So it's nice. It's nice to have that in between. You have to have a little bit of like change in levels of emotions, because it just seems like everything is just so high stakes all the time in some of these films. You're like, oh god, calm down. And that's what the second one is. It's like super melodramatic and everybody's like on the verge of tears and everything is just like over dramatic in this one. So it's set in the city of Texarkana. It opens, they're at a drive-in watching the original film. There's the main girl and her boyfriend. They're sitting on their car watching the film, and she doesn't really like it. She doesn't really like those films. So they're like, oh, let's leave. So they do, and then of course they go to a lover's lane, and that's when they get attacked. And this one definitely, I feel like, kind of took from the Zodiac as well, because they are not shot in this. In the weapon is not a gun in this one. It is a stabbing. They and he does tell them to take off take off your fucking pants when he comes in. So they did take that from the original one, although he didn't say it in the way that he originally said it, but they did take that into it. So it's funny how, like, some of them, each one used a little bit different things from the actual case. But he's trying to, he goes to attack her. She runs away. She ends up back at the, drive-in in front of the screen. I believe it's during the trombone scene, of course, because that's like the most well-known scene. And that's when they call the police and they take her to the hospital. And of course, so in this one, her boyfriend doesn't survive, or does he? And then she keeps getting phone calls from her boyfriend on her boyfriend's phone, but it's actually the killer. So he's like taunting her the entire time, and she keeps trying to figure out why, what it has anything to do with the film, like what is going on. So she wants to know. And of course, she's broody. She lives with her grandma because her parents are dead, so she has like that drama and sadness over her. And then so she goes to the archives where she meets the other brooding love interest who helps her investigate. And then there's the second murder. All the while, like, she's getting taunted by phone calls. Then there's a vigil for the victims. At the vigil, somebody comes up dressed up as the Phantom. He gets shot. They think it's the actual killer. So then the mayor at like a band performance decides that they're gonna, this mayor is giving the Jaws mayor a run for their money, because she just decides, okay, we caught him, cool, let's just make an announcement here so we can all party. Yeah, we just caught him, it's cool, so we no longer have to protect ourselves. We don't, like, this couldn't just be like a copycat or anything. Let's not really do an investigation. So she makes this announcement. They have the party. There's these two guys that were playing in the band at when the mayor made the announcement. And so then they go out to a junkyard and are sitting in their car. And that's when the Phantom comes back for one last scare. And goes to attack them. And this is when they recreate the trombone scene. So they almost, I mean, it's not a lover scene, not that it would be, like, it'd be fine if it was, but whatever. I think they're just there, like, they're probably supposed to be smoking or whatever. They're just sitting in the car and in the junkyard, and they get chased around, and the car crashes just like in the original movie. And then the one kid gets stabbed quickly, and the other one gets stabbed with the trombone, just like the original film. And then hysteria continues. I believe, is that when it is? Okay, so they are looking through the archives they bring up they change the names, of course, but they bring up the car thief, Lowell. They think it's him, and then they bring up the Mcspadden to the police officers. They bring them Mcspadden, which they call him McCready in the film. They make him his name in the film is McCready, but it's the Mcspadden character, the guy who was found on the train tracks. And they're like, oh, they thought that could have been the killer, or maybe it's a family member trying to either get revenge or continue, or so they have another ranger come in, and so they want to. All the regular sheriffs don't want to listen to her, but the ranger is like, we'll look into it. We'll look into it, and they go. Then Mr. Broody boyfriend and her go to talk to Charles B. Pierce's son, who plays, is it the Louisiana Vampire King in True Blood? I can't think of his name, but he plays the son, and he gives them all the information about the McCready case, because that's who he thinks did it, or that it's a relative of him. And they think that because, so the Texas side has I forgot what they call him in the film, but they have the Lowell suspect, the car thief, but the Arkansas side doesn't think it's him. The Arkansas side thinks it's this McCready guy, that he killed himself on the train tracks, and that's it. And then so that it's probably a family member come back to get revenge. So they have all this, like, again, the fight between who's gonna get the collar for this dude. So then at the same time this is all happening, again, she's getting taunted by the actual the killer on the phone, and her grandma, and she's in there again, she's in high school. Grandma she lives with the protective grandma, and the grandma wants her to leave. She keeps getting all these acceptance to all these colleges and to Cal State. So she gets, which Cal State, what, I don't know, but she gets accepted to Cal State, and the grandma's like, we need to leave, we need to get out of here. So after they go to the police, and they said they're gonna look into it, but then there's the what is the Stark attack. They get attacked. They do the house attack, so she decides to leave. She finally decides to she also finally decides to sleep with Mr. Broody boyfriend, and then her and her grandma decide to leave. Now, I'm not blaming the victim here, because slashers shouldn't be slashing, but if you actively know that there's somebody in your area who is murdering people at night and is also coming after you in some way or another, maybe we don't leave at night. Maybe we don't stop for gas at night. Like, maybe we wait till the morning. Just saying. But they don't. And they go to the gas station, and as she's in there paying for gas, her grandma gets attacked and is her throat slashed, and then they try to attack her. As she's running away, she finds out that her brooding boyfriend was murdered and cut up, just like Mr. McCready was. And she's running away, and then she finds out she gets shot with an arrow randomly. That, like, all that ammo never came to be. So, and as she's laying on the floor, 2 phantoms come out, and it is revealed that it's one of the sheriffs, who is the grandson of McCready, and the boyfriend from the beginning, who was not dead. He had some weird, like, I don't like society's labels, so I'm just going to be a killer kind of scream excuse. And then he was the son of McCready, so that was his excuse.
So I don't even, they doesn't say how they got together, actually found each other, just that they were both in so much hate of the world that they decided to come together. But the McCready son, of course, decides to double cross, and he shoots the boyfriend. So now he's actually dead, and they start to, the two of them, the girl and the McCready, start fighting. Oh good God! All right, I'm determined to finish this right now. I have put in too much effort. Sorry. So, I thought I could film everything on the amount of battery power that I had left, and I did not. And luckily I looked up a couple seconds after it died, otherwise I would have been really sad. So I got everything plugged in, and we're so close to finishing. And I'm probably breaking this up into two videos anyway, because we've been talking for like 4 hours. Thanks for sticking around. But we're almost done, and this is almost done too, and I'm really excited. So I left off. This is not hot. No wonder it wasn't burning anymore. We're almost done though, so I'm just doing a little touch-ups while we finish up the story. So they're fighting. As the McCready and the main girl are fighting, she's able to grab the gun, and he goes off and it shoots him and he dies. And then she's able to get away and get help and survive. The only thing is they come back later and they cannot find his body, so he ran away. And then she ends up leaving and going to Cal State generic, and starts her life over, and apparently is able to like, oh, I'm okay, whatever, I'm not broody and sad anymore. I honestly thought like the boyfriend was so broody, I thought it was gonna be him as the killer, but it ended up being her other boyfriend, because broody attracts brooding, I guess. Definitely, like, they definitely took some like what do you call it, notes from Scream, and like, let's make it the boyfriend, but let's go real out there and make it like two phantoms. And plus it, like, we have two theories going on here, two killers going on here at the same time. But so yeah, they never find his body. She goes off and tries to live her life. That would make me like not worry about it, although as she's at Cal State Generic and walking away, there seems to be some footsteps following her. So did he actually die, or like, is he gonna come after her again? Who knows? Dun dun dun. This movie didn't make enough to make a sequel, so we're never gonna know, and we probably don't even care, because it doesn't, like I said, it plays on one note the entire time. I mean, I'm not saying it's not like for fun, like there is a couple jump scares, like the second murder is at a hotel, and like he cuts the head off and like, the head, oh, it's so scary. Like, so there are like some jump scares in the movie, but it's more of like, be like, watch it, make fun of it kind of film. But I wanted to watch it just to see what else they did with the film, with this case. Yeah, but it's not like anything to write home about. But I don't know, it was a fun watch, but it wasn't anything spectacular. But it was fun to get into the spooky spirit for the scary movies. Alright, just doing a couple touch-ups. I'm really excited the way this turned out. I'm so excited. And we are done with our practical magic sign. I love this. As I was fixing everything. My husband wanted me to let you know if you care. If anybody would like to know, this is made out of ironwood. So it's nice and it's really thick and well and really sturdy. I really love it. All the images were burned in, and then I just did some painting to accentuate the images a little bit. So we have our practical magic sign. As we remember, always throw salt over your left shoulder. Plant rosemary by your garden gate. No. Keep rosemary by your garden gate. I knew that was wrong. Plant lavender for luck and fall in love whenever you can. I'm really excited about this, and this is my sign, but if you want one, I would love to make one for you. This again is if you've stuck around for 4 hours and have no idea what's going on, this is Crafts and Crimes that is connected with From the Heart Gifts. All the crafts that I make, or some version of them, are available from the Heart Gifts. I make bath and body products as well as gifts for yourself or loved ones. I'd love to plan something for you. As Halloween gets closer, I could make these. I can make you a sign as well, or one of your friends. Any other spooky people out there want some practical magic love or hocus pocus or any whatever other kind of Halloween saying, I could do that too. If you ever wanted to have a homemade gift but don't have time to make it homemade, I've got you covered. I will make your homemade gifts for you. But I am very excited to have gotten that done, to finally have tackled this story. It has been haunting me. I had been studying it and researching and reading and stuff, and I was like, this is gonna take forever. Like, it has been daunting me about doing this. I really wanted to do it, but oh my god, I knew it was gonna take some time. So thanks for sticking around, because that was a doozy. Next time, I believe I've been like tossing back and forth whether I was gonna do this one, because it's more of a modern one. It's fairly modern, and the movie is pretty horrific. It's a good movie, but it's a pretty horrific tale. But I think since I already started the research on it, I've already read books on it, I think I'm just gonna have to go for it, even though it's pretty gruesome. We're gonna do the Snowtown Murders from Australia and the Snowtown movie. So stick with me on that one. I think we're gonna have to do a fun craft to break that up, and that one's also a doozy, so bear with me on my research on that one as well. But for now, you can find Crafts and Crimes here on the YouTube channel. You can also find us on the From the Heart's Personalized Gifts page, where you can check out the Facebook page and the Instagram page. Both of those are From the Heart Personalized Gifts, where you can see pictures of the crafts and the crimes, or like of the suspects and everything on there. You can join the discussion of that week's case. You can also see other crafts that we're working on that you can purchase. The website is From the Heart Personalized Gifts, and that's where you can purchase any bath and body or personalized gifts for yourself or loved ones. And again, then you can find us here. But that concludes the craft and the crime. And as always, no crimes were committed in the making of these crafts, except for my comedy. So I will see you next time, where we will be doing Snowtown. I'm not sure what craft yet. It's got to be something to bring some levity to that crime, but I'm really excited to continue this journey with y'all. So